Yeah, this question for Dwayne. You talked about adding phosphorus of what you removed for grain. Would you look at building phosphorus back to a level that we've mined for so many years?
We want to run our phosphorus. We're trying to figure out how low we can go in terms of soluble phosphorus. Olson, Bray, Maley, Haney, those all, they basically test the solubility of the phosphorus or try to predict the solubility of the phosphorus. There's lots of P in the soil, and Gabe said something about that last night. There's a lot of insoluble phosphorus in the soil, and you can run a total P test. At least you can at Ward Labs. You can send a test in and say, I want to know total P and available P. The reason we want to run our soluble P low is when we do get movement of water off of the surface, which sometimes happens. If you have soluble P, more phosphorus will go into the waterways. And these algal blooms are associated with a lot of this algal stuff that's going on in the hypoxic zones and whatever associated with these soluble or very highly active forms. And the Red River Valley is extremely bad for that right now. There's a lot of stuff going into Lake Winnipeg and turning it green, and it's not very pleasant up there. And a lot of that's coming from North Dakota. So North Dakota and Minnesota and southern Manitoba, and it's going to get us in trouble as a industry. So let's take care of it. And if we have mycorrhizae there, we can run at low levels. Everything you people, a lot of you have been to our farm. Our entire irrigated part of the farm is less than 5 parts per million Olson P. And then once we get that low, then we add a portion of what we would take off in terms of grain sales. But one of the big tricks there also is to put livestock in the system so you're not exporting so much. So that's the other way of kind of keep that baseline there. But the reason for doing these things is, you know, not having dirt blown across the highway. Ruth was coming home from Brookings to Pier when that thing happened at Miller that you showed a photo of, or Lon did. And you know, they had to run a pilot car through the dirt, so they could get people through without running into each other. So the highway patrolman take one bunch one way and then bring another bunch back the other way. That guy was a quote-unquote no-tiller. Okay, but he had done corn and taken the residue off to feed his cows, and then he did beans, and he harvested that, and he turned them out to graze the swaths of the beans because he took his spreader off, so they could do that. And then he put oats and peas, and harvested that for silage, and he was going to put another crop after that, but it was too dry. But then the oats started to regrow in August, so he turned the cows out and let them graze it. Yep, he no-tilled. He didn't get any of the other parts of the right? He didn't do those other parts. See, so that's an important thing to point out. I mean, that wasn't really a guy out there ripping them up doing tillage. It was a guy that didn't understand the system.
Okay, let's go over to Nolan's side. And keep in mind, Nolan, your side goes up to the middle here, okay? I haven't got anybody raise their hand yet. Okay. Any questions on this side?
Up to the middle.
Yeah, up to the middle. Any? Okay. We'll go back to Daryl's side. Right here's one, Daryl.
In the middle.
Yeah, we'll take that as a middle guy right there.
Right. Hold on, I'm coming.
Decide which way to go on, right?
I know that drain tile creates a saline seep, a seep out of the environment, the water. Where we are at, we've got really deep clay soils with probably about 6 feet or 8 feet even of subsoil, topsoil. So, and then 120 feet, down to 120 feet of clay. And it's really hard to get rid of the water going down. So we have a lot of heavy wet ground, you know, and it's tough to work with. I've been told you can grow your way out of that. David Brandt talks about that. He's working on clay soils. I can't grow my way out of that water on these wet soils if I can't get like a good heavy rye crop to grow because it's too wet. Tile is the typical answer there, and that's been done, and I realize I'm 100% no-till for 4 years now. But how do we get to a level of moisture in that soil that's manageable if we're not getting rid of that excess water? If I can't grow something on it without getting rid of that water.
Who'd like to tackle that one? It's really wet at Minton, I believe. Minton? No? Who'd like to tackle that one?
Well, I mean, you have to put a perennial in there. You know, you're thinking the paradigm of annuals only, but, you know, the thing we had with the alfalfa, and you've been to my place, the alfalfa and corn, I mean, the alfalfa will take the deep water out to a large extent. I mean, you're only using, with corn and beans, you're only using water, if you think about it. Corn doesn't really start using water until about the second week of June. And it's done by the 1st of September, and beans are probably the 3rd week of June before they seriously start working, or 1st week of July before they start seriously using water. You're not using water for a good share of the year. So number one, but to get the deep water takes a perennial. And it probably takes alfalfa, or it takes these C4 grasses. And you know, guys like Colin Seiss is doing some things, and he's been here, I know, but it's not an easy thing. And if you do put in drain tile, okay, so let's say you put in drain tile, what are you doing with the water? Yeah, you're shipping them down the hill. And we have a family stories where neighbors moved in, put in a fence, and they started putting it in on our property, our house in town, and I went out on a Saturday morning and pointed out the pins and said, you know, you can build it, but you have to build it on your property. And after they got the fence, they wanted it for their dog, and after they got the fence built, we were out there working, and here come the poop over the fence onto our yard. So I don't care if you put in the drain tile, but don't throw your dog poop on my lawn. So try to keep the water there and use it for something or whatever. I don't know, but it's a societal thing. We're going to get in trouble as an agricultural society if we keep dumping our stuff in the river. You want to take that? You got wet soils with time.
Yeah, we've used the relay as a way of managing that. But like I said, you got to have something that's going to have some biomass really growing to be able to consume that. And you made a great point. What we're seeing with the relay soybeans is, for the most part, water is detrimental until July and August. So if we can take a portion of that, you can kind of depend on where you want to be with that. That has seemed to really help our soybeans. Corn usually consumes a little bit more, but it's really helped our beans.
Nolan, we're going to give you another try here. Daryl's ahead of you.
I'm going to get in my obligatory intercropping question. Since Derek learned lots from Dr. Beck, I'm wondering if Dr. Beck can learn some tricks off of Derek on the intercropping, and do you want to try some of that? What do you think of that?
We've acted intercrop for a long time, and we've done relay cropping and stuff for a long time. Some of this stuff was done before I got married to Ruth, and that's been 31 years. So, because she was asking me about it last night, and so, well, I did that before we got married. And we still intercrop on a regular basis. But I learned a lot of things from Derek. We talk, as I said, I learn more from farmers than they learn from me, because they go out and do these things, and sometimes they find out things that don't work. And I can go, okay, I don't need to try that. And we have all our old machinery in the machinery line yet, which drives my administrators crazy, but I have it there because as I get older, I get more forgetful, and I walk out through there and see if I've tried something before. I come up with a great idea, and I go walking through and go, oh shit, I tried that before.
Well, I want to just add to that comment on Derek's place with what he's been doing. A week ago, I had the opportunity to take about 4 hours of his time and get a tour of the farm, and just happened to have a spade in the back of my vehicle. I don't know how it got there. And so we went ahead and cut some soils for a rainfall simulator, and consequently we got across all the stubble from all these different crop combinations. And I think you'll see some of that influence next summer at the Minokan farm. So it was pretty impressive. Yeah. Next question. The middle. Dick. Did you catch that, Derek? I think the question was, do you have a legume in your rotation every year? Or in every field even? And Lon, could Derek borrow that from you? Oh, one question at a time, Dick. You know, this is not a, no, just kidding. Go
Who's he
ahead.
think he is?
Go ahead.
It's on?
You're good. You're good.
So we don't, yeah, it sort of seems like that. I guess what we've been trying to do is we've been trying to put an understory of clovers in with our cereals, I guess, as far as a legume, but this year was an absolute failure. Can you hear me all right?
Can you hear him? Okay, are you hearing me all right? Or okay, just hold her up a little closer.
Just get right in there.
Yep.
Okay, so, yeah, we do, so like, there wouldn't be quite 50% of the legume for intercrops, I guess, just for lack of a better term. And then the other little, 55% of the farm is cereals. And then we do run a little bit of clovers in them. This year was a failure. I don't know how much it affects it. Maybe Dr. Beck actually could probably explain it better than me, but that's what we've been doing. And I've only been using clovers because herbicide-wise it works. And, well, we did actually try rye. We did that rye thing a few years ago, and Dr. Beck told me it was going to cost me yield, and he was right. We seeded fall rye in the spring with the annuals, like the cereal crop, the durum, and it hurt us a bit. Maybe I'll revisit that, but I don't know. I think adding the non-legumes to our legume rotation has helped us, I guess, maybe offset that little bit of legume we're putting in our cereal. I'm not sure. We just keep trying things.
And Dick, you had a second question.
Yeah, the reason I bring this up is that Dr. Beck and I have talked about, the low residue scenario in legumes, but an intercropping system, certainly when we start looking at, combining the low residue legume with another crop to consistently have a legume in our every field every year. And I'm just asking the question of, what you're seeing as benefits to that, if you have any follow-up.
Yeah, maybe one of the benefits, if there is a bit of the legume, it maybe helps us break, cycle our residue from our cereals a little bit faster. I'm not sure if it's helping it warm it up. I don't know. But I do know for a fact that the residue we're seeing on our legume side, adding the flax or the mustard or whatever it may be, has been huge. That's been life-changing, that one. So that's been a plus. I'd never grow a legume on its own again. We just don't.
Any other speakers want to comment on the diversity question? Okay, we'll take our next question then.
On companion relay cropping, guys, are you noticing any negative yield effects on subsequent years after a relay crop? Like in year 2 or 3?
I think from my experience with the banded manure and using the radishes and getting the volunteer wheat, for us with our fertility levels, we can get away from adding dry, and we're getting about a 10 to 20 bushel yield advantage on our corn the next year. But we don't have near the soil structure that you do on your farm. It's just that little bit added is really helping get through some of the stress periods.
I couldn't honestly tell you. I mean, we keep track, of a certain amount of things, but year-to-year weather events and we don't generally run intercrop back to intercrop, but there's one every generally every 2 years. So I couldn't honestly tell you.
Any questions over here?
Right there.
I guess this would be for anybody that can answer it. Some guys talked about sugar application to deter pests. Does it also deter or hurt honeybees or predators?
That last part again, please.
I guess just, does it, if you deter the pest with the sugar,
Yep.
does it also deter honeybees or predator insects?
So, no, we feed our bees sugar water in the off-season, and so actually, you know, you're providing some more food out there, and we haven't seen that. I mean, our system's alive, and that sugar does help, though, with aphids and everything like that. But no negative effect that I know of.
Last question or two?
I got another one, Jay. There's one written down there. Someone wanted to know, Jason, about how big your fields are. Question, how big are your fields?
Size of
Your
scale.
fields, Jason.
As far as our relay cropping,
I think so, yeah.
well,
There
it's
was a
still
question.
a pretty small portion over 3,000 acres. We're up to 80 acres this year with the relay cropping.
Okay. Anyone else have a question over on this side? Here we go.
Are you using synthetic fertilizer, Derek? And if you aren't, can you talk about your decision to do that?
You almost got out of town.
We've made a significant reduction. I guess we are still using some synthetic fertility. We're dabbling with going with zero, but there's some things that they're still making a big difference for us. You know, we're down to just a sniff of phosphorus, very similar to what Dr. Beck's doing. Yeah, and we're using a little bit of ammonium sulfate so that's where we're getting our bit of N from. And other than that, it's been what we've been seeing. Is that a fair answer?
Thank you. Another question? I think we're good for one more. Going once. Okay, going twice. Okay, that's gonna, oh boy, that was close.
Derek, could you tell us a little bit about your compost, a little more about what your goals are?
Yeah, sure. I got to get a little panicked there and burnt through a couple of slides. Yeah, so the cow-calf guy that bought our cow operation, which was right across the highway from our yard, he feeds some steers there in the winter. And so there's manure, and the manure was available. So we were just spreading it in the past. But after doing the Elaine's course, obviously we knew we wanted to be doing better. And the other side of that coin was he started bringing in screenings from all over God's green earth. And I was worried about weeds. So it was just a really good combination to do that. So then we had the refuse thing started to happen. And it's amazing what people will bring you once they find out you're composting. It's, things that they just don't know what else to do with. So that's what we're using. We're all low value. We're probably 70% cow manure. When I say cow manure, it's like bedding pack mostly, brown bale feeders, that sort of thing. And we bring in a little bit of wood. That's the only, and we're still dabbling with that. And flax straw. People will give us their flax straw. You can have it if you bale it. So that's awesome. They don't want their carbon, I'll take it. What's the other? And that's, yeah, exactly. So that's what we've been doing. Mix them up and make our windrows. We've been trying to make around 3,000 tons a year. That's sort of the goal. I'd like to do a little more because I'd like to get over the farm every 3 years, but it hasn't. We didn't get there this year. We ran out of time, but that's what we're making.
Thank you.
Okay, with that, I'd like to acknowledge today's speakers. If we could give them a round of applause.